If it goes right, it's a slice. If it goes left, it's a hook. If it goes straight, it's a miracle. This is Out of Bounds. If it's happening in the world of golf, we're talking about it. Coverage, debate, discussion, pro golf and local golf. Let's do it. This is Out of Bounds. And here are your hosts, Nate Sharman and Josh Durso.
All right, welcome back to the Out of Bounds podcast. Josh Durso, Nate Sharman here, keeping you in bounds with the latest from around the golf world. We've got 2 weeks of golf tournaments to talk about because we weren't here last week. Let's start with the Genesis. Hideki Matsuyama ties course record, gets a win, an incredible Sunday for him. But I think the story of that tournament was Patrick Cantlay not closing. What do you think?
Yeah, what a round by Hideki Matsuyama. Not a guy we talk about enough, I don't think, right? Especially when we talk about those top 15, 20 golfers in the world. A guy that's won the Masters before and can show that he can make birdies in bunches. So huge day by Hideki Matsuyama, coming out of practically nowhere on Sunday, right? No one was even really talking about him or thinking about him. And that goes about to your Cantlay point. Was holding that lead at some points and then just didn't have it on Sunday for lack of a better term there. And gives up the victory. It did come out later that he had sort of that stomach bug, that high fever bug that Tiger withdrew from. It was reported that a couple different players had it and it was kind of going around the tournament. So yeah, that's definitely a factor of why Patrick Cantlay wasn't able to get that victory on Sunday. But that just adds to the list of times that Patrick Cantlay has had an opportunity to win a big marquee golf tournament. And as we've said on this podcast, he just really doesn't have a lot of those big marquee wins.
Yeah, and just one thing, you mentioned Matsuyama, maybe one of the most underrated golf swings in professional golf, I think. Yep. Like if I'm just watching golf swings, his is one of the few that I could just sit and watch whale golf balls on a range for hours and be locked in.
He's one of those guys too, Josh, that can make 4 or 5 birdies in a row. There's a lot of these guys can do that, but he's one of them, and I think he's a guy we kind of forget about a little bit, right? A guy that can get hot and beat almost anybody in the world at any given time. So watch out for Hideki.
Oh yeah, I would say he's one of those guys that people think of as a top 10 golfer in the world, even if he may not always be in the top 10 in the world, if that makes sense. The Patrick Cantlay thing's interesting. I'm a little conflicted. I don't think I don't think him losing the lead on Sunday, not being able to hold on, he didn't have it from the first swing of the day, right? Like it was clearly not his day. And whether that be because of illness or whether that be just because of, how he tends to play on Sundays, unfortunately, I don't think it has any immediate impact on what people think about him. I think one thing that's helping his case is the fact that we've seen so many first time or new faces win on tour so far this year. And obviously that tournament was an exception. Obviously Hideki is not a new face in any way, shape or form. But we've seen a lot of that so far. So it doesn't, I guess I would feel differently if we saw a lot of stars winning bunches of these events early in the year and sort of squeezing Patrick out into the kind of like no man's land. But is this a make or break year for him? I feel like every year is like that because he's getting older, but do we feel like there's more pressure in 2024 for him to win something that really matters than maybe we have seen in the last few years?
Yeah, and I think if there wasn't so many golf storylines in the world right now, especially with LIV and Anthony Kim, which we'll talk about a little bit more, I think more pressure would be on Patrick Cantlay. He hasn't really done a lot to help himself out in the last few years, right? Especially with all the slow play and everyone talking about them. Now he's taking a bigger role in the PGA Tour, so he's in the spotlight for that too. And just the general, I would say the general golf fans do not like Patrick Cantlay, whether because he can be smug in interviews sometimes, or the slow play part of things. So I think he could do a lot of help if he were to just kind of, I don't know, if, for lack of a better term, shut up the haters, right? If he were to win, the Genesis Open or something like that, or even win a major, or contend in a major this year, that would do big for his career. I don't know if it's a make or break year. Josh is a guy that's won the season-long tournaments, season-long championship before. So a guy that's a very established winner and has made a lot of money throughout his career. But I think he can do a lot to kind of quiet people down if he's able to win a big marquee event this year. So I think that's really important for him.
Yeah, and I think, guys, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me right now, but I believe Data Golf has him in the top 5 in the world right now. So I mean, obviously he's playing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He's playing among the best on the planet, and you'd expect. I still think that no matter what we're talking about here with Patrick Cantlay, I think eventually he's going to get one.
Yes, definitely, for sure.
The thing I asked myself about him is genuinely, how much does he care? Like, how much does he actually care about shutting up the haters? This guy is like, if he's anything, he's one of the most tunnel vision golfers I think this crop has in it right now. And at the end of the day, like, I don't think he really cares what fans or people think of him. Is it a little bit of a brain leech maybe that he thinks about on Sundays when it comes down to these big events, perhaps, but I don't think it has any big effect on how he plays. It's a weird, he is one of the most unique golfers of this last generation, I think, because of his inability to win a big one. And unlike, for years growing up, I remember hearing the same kind of like conversation about Phil, right? Till he finally got that major. This sort of feels similar to that, although I don't think Patrick Cantlay cares as much as Phil did when Phil was searching for his first.
Yeah, definitely an interesting character. Let's talk about another unique golfer from that tournament, right? And Tiger Woods, unique for certainly different ways, right? Had to withdraw from the tournament. I believe it was on Friday where he had to take the card out and kind of use that same kind of in and out motto where it would just where a lot of golfers were sick that week and just had some stomach problems and had to withdraw from the tournament. It was a very unfortunate situation, but luckily it was nothing to do with his play. It was nothing to do with his health. It was all to do with that stomach bug that would just made him not able to complete that golf tournament. So Josh, my main question out of that, do you think we see him before the Masters? Do you think he plays the Players coming up here in not only a few weeks now?
Oh, I think he certainly does. I think it's almost a guarantee that he plays in the Players. Just if for nothing else, the history of the event. Also, there isn't, to me, I didn't see anything in this last event that looked like a warning sign that he wouldn't be able to hold up. I mean, the stadium course isn't exactly that brutal. It's not like a major course, a traditional major course, or like a US Open course where it could be really brutal on the body. I guess I would be more curious to see how he holds up in the Masters. I think he'll play fine in Florida, where it's probably going to be in like the mid 70s or near 80 degrees.
Flat.
And flat compared to the Masters, where we've seen just in the last couple of years that, I think we've had like Fridays and Saturdays where temperatures have been in like the 40s and 50s.
Right. That's
where I'm interested. And also, like, the one note I guess I would say with regard to his health would just be, I'm curious. He had that shank on Friday, I think it was, or Thursday or Friday, one of the two. He has that shank.
I think it was Thursday, yeah.
Toward the end of his round, and he said it was his back was spasming. Maybe he was starting to feel a little ill from whatever was getting ready to take care of him that weekend. But that would be the one thing I would just watch for is he going to have back issues, spasms? He's almost 50 years old, an old guy now. So,
yeah, I'm primarily throwing out most of the data from the Genesis, just from the barriers of being sick. Your stomach's off. I think everybody knows that. You're just not the same person you are at all. But physically, he looks great. He's looked great in the last time we've seen him, especially going back for the last month. He's looked good. His walk looks good. His swing looks different, but still very good, very Tiger-esque in a way too. So I think he'll be fine. And I agree with you, Josh. I think we'll see him at the Players, and then we'll see him at the Masters. That's a course he's very, very familiar with, of course. One on before and one on very many times. So, I'm excited to see him at the Players and see how he plays as we get this Florida swing started here this week.
Also, walking that course out in California, clearly no picnic. That march down off the first tee. I mean, that you want to talk about
Riv is that's a lot of
tough.
Fun.
You want to talk about tough on the lower body for a guy like Tiger. I mean, that jaunt is no cakewalk. Let's talk about the Mexico Open, shall we? Jake Knapp holds on, gets a win. Interesting character. You want to talk about interesting character. this is an interesting character for professional golf. So plays, I don't want to say abysmal on Sunday, but he just held on for dear life, right? Didn't play great. But he gets the win. I think he hit like 2 fairways the entire day. This continues that trend of rookies, new guys, new faces, winning events. Obviously, the Mexico Open is not an elevated event. What do you think this continues? Do you think we're going to see more of this?
Yeah, that's 3 on tour this season, right? Rookies that have won. We had 3 all of last year, Josh. Yeah. So that just shows to show how the landscape of professional golf has changed. I think we are going to get closer and closer to the Florida swing, and you get closer to the majors and stuff, where you get the guys really tuned up, right? And you don't see I don't see where a lot of rookies can win the rest of the schedule. There is definitely some spots, especially with some opposite field events with some majors coming up. I think you'll see at least one more, though. I think it's hard not to say that a rookie will win. But Josh, yeah, what a cool battle between Knapp and Valmaki. 2 guys with mullets battling it out on Sunday, which was a lot of fun to watch. Jake Knapp was trying to give that one away, but he hit some really good golf shots down the stretch to continue to get that first win. Really, really fun Sunday afternoon of golf, I thought. And Josh, what I thought was really cool about Jake Knapp, maybe the coolest thing, was after Friday, he held a 1-shot lead, I believe. And then he comes out on Saturday, and we're saying, you know what, this is Jake Knapp, a guy that hasn't been here before, possibly a rookie on tour. Could he let the pressure get to him? Nope. He goes out and shoots 29 on Saturday on the front 9. So I think that's just shows where professional golf is and shows where golf is, that everybody is so darn good at this game and how the pressure really doesn't matter that much. These guys are so, keened in from their amateur career and getting through that stuff. So it's pretty cool stuff from Jake Knapp to get that first victory. And it's always fun to see a guy with a mullet get the W.
Absolutely. Criticism of the field strength. That was something that I saw crop up on X throughout the weekend. To me, it feels like it's just a reality of the elevated, non-elevated schedule setup. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think I would agree with that too, Josh. I think LIV, eats into that too. They've stolen so many players that would probably maybe be on that border, right? You have some guys that would be playing in this event that might change it, but I don't think that would necessarily change the factor. But yeah, just a non-elevated versus elevated schedule, especially getting into the Florida swing and getting more and more, you're not going to see a lot of big guys play this tournament. I think Tony Finau was probably the only top player to play in this event.
Yeah, that's a great point. I hadn't even actually thought about that. But guys like Cam Smith or John Rahm, they're not going to be playing these non-elevated events. So I don't really see how LIV has much to do with the equation. Let's talk about
a few instances, but I don't know if it really changes the fact that these guys are still low level names. Maybe some golf fans that watch the PGA Tour on a week in, week out basis would know who they are, but for the most part, no.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that's something that I think the tour is going to have to. Again, this goes back to the stories golf media is telling, and what kind of exposure these younger guys or these new faces are getting in various platforms where people can actually learn more about them or find out who they are or know who they are. Because otherwise, I feel like if we just rely on the method that we've used all along, seems like we're going to hit a wall here where, a lot of these events are going to be dominated by players that people just don't know. So
yeah,
tour, get on that. Let's talk about the match. Went off without a hitch. The question is, was it a success? Did you like what you saw on Monday?
Yeah, I liked it, Josh. Seeing Rory, Lexi, Roseng, and Max out there, I thought it was going to be a team setting thing. I put my hand up admittedly. I thought that was going to be the format, and then I learned early Monday that it was a skins effort. So I think at first I was a little bit, I don't know if disappointed is the right word, or just kind of not really intrigued, because you have a little bit of a change with there. You see a little bit more of a difference in play, right? These people playing for skins and trying to make birdies and stuff, which is really fun to watch. So I think that was cool. One thing about it was really cool is just the fact that every player is mic'd up all the time and you're really hearing them talk. And I think for the ladies in this event, you really got to learn them a lot more. Lexi Thompson has been on the LPGA Tour for a while and has been a mainstay, right? And I think I think Claire Rogers even said it, and I kind of felt the same way. But before I even thought about it, before I even put it into words on Twitter, I think I learned more about Lexi Thompson in an evening than I did in her whole career. So kudos to the tour for doing that. I think that is a really good idea to kind of put your stars, get them on a microphone, get the booth to be quiet, and just let them talk. Let them go through their shot routine and let them talk about kind of where they are. And then you have a person like Rose Zhang, who is a really up and comer, really good player out of Stanford, who we've talked a lot about on this podcast. And we got to hear her talk and kind of hear her, what she is and what kind of she goes through it. And just watch her swing is really cool, Josh. Every single time, I think she just hits it right in the middle of the club face. So that was a lot of fun to watch. Rory's Rory, cool as a cucumber. You know, he doesn't say a whole ton, but doesn't need to. He just has that kind of Rory attitude, and then that's fun. Max is, I think, made for this. Max is a lot of fun to watch, and just a guy that's always going to give you a fun thing. He's always going to take a shot at Charles Barkley, which is kind of what they want to see. But at the end of the day, Josh, really, really good optimism from my side. I really enjoyed watching it, but it was just too long. I mean, it started at 6:30 and it got done around 10 or even a little after 10. They played 12 holes. 4 golfers playing 12 holes just takes a while. I'd like to see them maybe play half of that. I don't think they need to play 12 holes. I think, but that's something that they're going to kind of experience and kind of cut down. But we're 9 matches into this. You think they could be able to figure that part out. But overall, a good thing for me.
Yeah, I think it's kind of run its course. It's too long, like you said. I think it's really hard for the tour to properly sell this. I don't get what they were thinking with what day they had. Having it on a Monday night in late February at 6:30. Out on the West Coast, people are still at work when this thing starts. Here on the East Coast, it's not getting over until 10 o'clock, and they're only playing 12 holes. I think this is bordering on now, for me, the tour kind of running this into the ground. I think the match was, when people think the match, good, bad, or indifferent, they still think of Tiger and Phil.
Right.
And
Vegas, playing for $1 million or whatever it was.
When it comes to these like continuations of the match, it just feels like something that was a good thing that's just been, dragged out a little too far. Not to say that there shouldn't be something like this, but I think it needs to be something entirely new. I think it needs to be a little more intentional, so shorter, perhaps post-produced, like something where we're actually like seeing it produced the way play-alongs are from a lot of the popular YouTube channels, because that's clearly where and what people want to watch. That's in line with what consumers want to see right now in golf. So I would rather see that. Does that mean this past one was a bad? It didn't. No, like I don't think it was bad. It was what I think the last few matches have become. A little tired, a little like drawn out. The PGA Tour tries to make it a spectacle, and it just ain't there. Like you can't sell something that just doesn't have an audience.
Well, I don't think they would have done this, Josh, if they didn't have what happened with the TGL. I think the TGL would have done a lot compared to this. They would have really, put an AirPod in the players and really kind of shown who they are. But Josh, with the, TGL getting delayed a year, I think they kind of were forced to do this. And for that thinking too, I think they did a pretty good job in, like I said, just showing personalities. I think that's really important to kind of show who these people are. And especially with women's golf, really gaining a lot of traction, women's sports in general, gaining a lot of traction over the last probably year or a little bit more than that now. I think just getting these players and just hearing them talk and not having a talking head talk about them is really important. And I think they really did a really good job of that, just kind of letting these players get an AirPod in and talk about themselves, talk about their shot, and getting out of the way. And I think that's the most important part. And they generally did a pretty good job at that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, one of the interesting dilemmas I think it has is like, do we want to hear the TNT guys like calling this? Like, is that what we want as consumers, or is that just what the people sitting around a boardroom at the PGA Tour think a bunch of like 55 to 70-year-olds want to hear, because it like basically still falls in line with what like the traditional broadcast product is in golf?
Yeah, but the TNT crew does do a nice job in the fact that it doesn't feel like a traditional broadcast. It feels like the halftime of an NBA game, which is really, really good, and people like that a lot. People like Ernie Johnson and Charles Barkley kind of going at each other, and then you bring in Paul Bissonnette and DJ Khaled, who is a little bit interesting, and Christina Kim, who got some mixed reviews, but just a different voice on the broadcast, I think, was very good for them. And TNT has some of those personalities that are able to kind of make it a lot more unserious and just kind of have fun with it too. So I think that was a good idea, but they did do a nice job of, Ernie Johnson especially, did a nice job of really kind of getting out of the way, right? If the player's ready to talk, then we're going to let them talk.
Yeah, and I mean, I think at the end of the day, that's one of the main arguments for making this a post-produced event that is edited and put together after the fact, because you will be able to eliminate so many of the low, kind of like the lulls, and be able to emphasize so much more what the players are saying and the best of what the commentators are saying. So yes, I mean, the TNT crew has some great moments, but there's also some points where through a 3.5 hour broadcast, you're like, jokes aren't landing and things are just like, it's like, all right, throwaway comment. That was cool. Whatever. Again, I think
you lose a lot if it's not live, though. You lose the allure of the fans and everything if it's not live, in my opinion. And even those low comments can be funny in a way, in a reverse way, where they might be in a 4-hour broadcast. It might be a time where there's a lull, and that it's almost okay. I don't think you need to be like 100% balls to the wall every minute, right?
Yeah, I would just say, like, if that's the case, like, how are you going to keep people connected for 3.5 hours? I mean, it's just too long.
It's hard. Yeah, I don't think you can keep anyone connected for 3.5 hours, no matter what you do.
Yeah, I mean, that's just basically. It's almost as long as like golf is on the television on the weekends.
Right.
Like,
might even be longer in some cases.
Okay, so enough about that.
Especially all the commercials.
Talking about, hey, at least we got playing through. Rory and Max say they wouldn't mind or wouldn't be opposed to a night finish in golf. And they're talking about tournament golf. We're not talking about just a random throwaway exhibition. We're talking about tournament golf. What do you think? Would you like to see maybe the back nine on a Sunday played under the lights?
Yeah, I think it'd be cool, Josh. We saw that in the match where we were just talking about, right? They played under the lights at the park in West Palm Beach. I think that would be a lot of fun to kind of see how much it is different at night. We talk about this a little bit too. There's so many blaring lights going on them, so it may look like on camera that it's pretty light, but that percentage changes a lot. Max was in a bunker and he hit a bunker shot, and I think it was on the second hole. He was like, I don't even know where that is, and these players don't even see the ball in the air, and they're like 4 maybe, and then the ball just kind of trickles into the crowd. But that was kind of funny. But I think it would be interesting in a sense that I don't need it a ton, but I think it would be kind of fun to watch and it'd be different. Josh, I've been banging that whole different drum for ever since this podcast has really been created. I think anything the PGA Tour can do to be different and to try something else, I'm never going to say it's bad. I'm always going to be in for that. Let's try something different and let's see how we can, continue to gain fans to watch our sport. I'm
with you, and I have absolutely nothing to add. It's just that simple. Try different things. They don't all have to be home runs, but try something new. And if you don't do it after the first or second try, that's fine too. Try something else. I think the golf as a consumed broadcast product needs such an overhaul that I'm willing to see the PGA Tour or any tour try anything to spice things up and make it more appealing to watch for non-golf people. Because at the end of the day, if we're really going to grow the game and we're really going to see these big, massive pots of gold that we're handing out every Sunday be justified, frankly, you need to grow the game significantly. I mean, it's nice that we have all these private equity investments, and you've got, the Saudis who are willing to dump, hundreds of millions of dollars, maybe $1 billion or $2 billion into professional golf for a product that gets 25, 30,000 eyeballs on a YouTube live stream. But at the end of the day, if we're going to keep going down this road, golf as a consumed product needs to grow.
Yeah. But I will say, Josh, going back to the broadcast element, I think they have done a better job in the last couple months, right? I think the watching experience, in my opinion, has improved. You know, they've been trying new things. They've been continuing to do the walk along. They've been bringing players in the booth like Rory McIlroy. I think they are trying things, and I think it is getting better, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. I think they're also showing more golf shots.
Yes, that's
which is like, I think golf coming into this season, professional golf, the PGA Tour was in such a bad place coming into this season that any improvement would feel like significant improvement. So
yep.
I think at the end of the day, like, yeah, that it's gotten better, but it's, you know, we're talking very small steps compared to where the tour needs to go in the next like 2 to 4 years, in my opinion.
Yeah, but any steps are good steps in my opinion, and the emergence of LIV has really kind of forced their hand, right?
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of hands being forced, Taylor Gooch, he's mad. He's really mad because he got snubbed from Augusta. He will not be playing. He did not get a special invite. Nate, I know you have a lot of thoughts on this. Probably by now everybody's seen the firestorm that's been happening on Twitter, formerly or X, formerly Twitter. What do you think? What do you make of all this?
Well, let's start with the quote, Josh. And this quote just came out of nowhere, right? Where you know we've heard a lot about, you know, Augusta. Hokie Neiman, after he won, he said something about Augusta first. He gets a special invite. He's historically played pretty well in the Masters, and he has a better track record in terms of professional golf than Taylor Gooch. But he said if Rory McIlroy goes and completes the Grand Slam, there will be an asterisk. Excuse me. I think that's just absolutely a wild thing to say. Taylor Gooch is saying this. Why is he picking out Rory McIlroy? There's a million different players he could have picked out. Rory's probably sitting there looking at this and saying, well, what's going on here? Why are we talking about me? We've talked about Rory getting that Grand Slam and how awesome that would be. He probably should have gotten an invite, Josh. I think everyone would agree with that. He's been one of the better players on LIV in terms of, you know, finishes in the last couple of years now. Yeah. But yeah, just a crazy thing to say. But at the end of the day, it gets people talking about him and it gets people talking about the system. So I guess it's good. But it is just a funny quote to read out loud, talking about Rory McIlroy and if how he wins, there'd be an asterisk because Taylor Gooch wasn't there.
Yeah, and he didn't say that because, you know.
But that's what he implied.
Yeah, I mean, he basically like couched it by saying like there should be more LIV guys in the field, even though a ton of LIV guys are actually in the field. Do I think he should have gotten an invite? Yes. Do I think going about it this way now is the right move for Taylor Gooch? No, because I think he pretty much guaranteed himself never getting an invite in the future to the Masters unless some kind of deal between the PGA Tour and LIV is reached and there's like cross-pollination between the two sides in a real like merged kind of way. Like I think he pretty much sealed that up, right?
He's certainly not going to make any friends over at Augusta in terms of getting a special invite. But yeah, he's never been a guy that's been afraid to put his name out there and put his name in the headlines, and he's played very well and very well backed that up too. So possibly he gets in another way, but I thought it was interesting too, going back to the Hokie Neiman debate. I saw a tweet about how Hokie Neiman has played in a ton of different events to try to get himself, you know, qualifications, and you know that gets into a whole subject of OWGR, and Taylor Gooch has not done that. So that's one thing about Hokie Neiman. Josh, I want to point one more thing about Taylor Gooch. Somebody very funny on the internet, which we know the internet is a very, very good place and with a lot of good minds. Someone went on Taylor Gooch's Wikipedia page and put asterisks against all his wins and wrote Rory McIlroy not in the field. So I just thought that was great, and that's since been edited now. But it was just awesome for the screenshot where someone took all of Taylor Gooch's wins, where most of them are on the LIV Tour at this point, and showing how Rory McIlroy is not there, and maybe those should have asterisks too. I don't know.
Yeah, I know, like that whole thing is just very weird to me. The whole like that comment is, like you said, just asinine. It's silly. I mean, is what it is. I you know, is anyone going to be thinking about this? Like he says this now, but the Masters is 5 weeks away still. Is anybody going to be thinking about this on Thursday when the first group goes out at Augusta?
No shot. Once you put a peg in the ground, there's the storylines and off the course stuff don't really matter. It's who plays the next 72 holes of golf in the lowest score.
Right. And I would say I'd hazard a guess that in a week we're not even talking about this anymore because it matters that little.
Right.
Taylor Gooch can go win all he wants on LIV. Unfortunately, he is going to be one of the examples of guys that didn't have enough of a resume established on tour before he went to LIV to work his way into or get special invitations to majors. Like Neiman, obviously the guys who actually have won majors, it's different for them. But, this is just kind of the nature of the situation until there's some kind of agreement between the PGA Tour and LIV Golf about how the two can coexist and be together, right?
Right.
Anthony Kim, speaking of LIV, Anthony Kim making his return to pro golf Jeddah this weekend. He is a wild card through the rest of the season, which means he will be playing as an individual through the rest of the LIV season. Expectations? He's 38.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm in the minority here, but I'm not like super like holy cow about the return of Anthony Kim. He was a guy that was beloved on the PGA Tour in terms of who he is as a player and that golf swing too, kind of, just being a really powerful golf swing and kind of entering that thing early. Anthony Kim was just a guy that had, for lack of a better term, swag, right? We saw him in the Ryder Cup make a bunch of birdies in a row and then he goes to the next tee and not knowing that the match is over and that he doesn't have to do that. So I just think that's part of the reason we love Anthony Kim. Does 38-year-old Anthony Kim have that same mojo? Who knows? Well, I don't know. We've yet to see what's going on, but there's been a lot of hype around Anthony Kim, right? Especially from these LIV Tour accounts. Josh, over under 72 par at the course they're playing this week in LIV. What do you got?
I'll take the under. I think he shoots under par.
Yeah. Probably.
Is he going to win? I don't like. I pretty much look at it like this. My expectations for him are about the same as Tiger. I think they both can be solid personalities and middle of the road players for LIV, PGA Tour, for golf as a whole. But I don't have a ton of confidence in either winning. Just don't.
Yeah, 38-year-old Anthony Kim. I don't see a scenario where he wins. In a way that kind of solidifies what the LIV Tour is if he does win, but in a way it's absolutely a huge storyline if he's able to get this victory in his first start back. But I think it's pretty low chance. I think I would take that under 72 as well. I think Anthony Kim is going to be a guy who's going to be ready to go. He's got that intense sort of moniker about golf too, so I think he's going to be ready to go. The swing looks good. We saw a couple of videos surface on X showing him, swinging on the range before the tournament. Looks good. Looks similar to what Anthony Kim has always been. But yeah, 38-year-old Anthony Kim, about 15 years after last time we've seen him play pro golf. It is an interesting scenario, but one that I'm not maybe as excited for as others, but I'll still have my eye on it.
Yeah, I mean, if he won, I think it would be one of the biggest stories in golf.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I understand
love a good comeback story.
Yeah, I mean, I know some people are going to say, oh, that, like you just pointed out, that would kind of encapsulate what LIV has been characterized over the last few years. But, I think still a guy coming back from a basically a 10 to 12 year off period would be huge, be crazy.
I would hope that they stuff a microphone in his face and really get into the weeds of asking him questions. I don't think they're going to, but I really would love to know, kind of what happened, what led to that. We've heard a lot of stories about the insurance policy, but I'd love to hear more information about that. But I don't think that's going to happen.
We need to get him on a podcast. Is what we need to see him in a long form.
LIV's not going to let him do that, I wouldn't think.
LIV. I think LIV would if it meant they could
They have to be able to control the narrative, though, you would think, right?
Does the narrative even have anything to do with them, though?
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's really just about what he has been. What has he been doing for the last 12 years? I think 2013 was the last time he played. What has he been doing for the last 10 years, other than raising a child and surfing? I guess sure. I don't know. I think there's a lot about the person that doesn't really have anything to do with what tour he's playing on. That would probably be in Liv's benefit for him to do like a spree of foreplay podcasts and things like that, where he just like sits down and talks long, like for an hour about like what his situation has been.
Yeah, I would listen. If Anthony Kim wants to come talk on any particular podcast, we would welcome that.
Yeah. So let's get into the golf we have coming up. Florida Swing kicks off this week with the Congizant Classic at Palm Beaches. Chris Kirk is your defending champ. McIlroy, Fitz, Tom Kim, Cam Young, Sepp Straka, Ricky Fowler, and FedEx Cup points leader Matthew Pavon are in the field. This was previously the Honda Classic, or as I called it in the past, the Honda Not So Classic. What are your predictions for this week?
I would love to get on here and say a rookie's going to win. That would be really cool. You'll see some in the field, but I don't think that's going to be possible. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Matthew Fitzpatrick puts it together. We saw a miscut last week, and but the week before we saw a good finish at the Phoenix Open, a top 15. So Matt Fitz 30-1 is my pick at PGA National this week. Let's get the Florida Swing started. Once that gets started, we really get in the meat of the golf season. So I'm excited for the Florida Swing to start.
Yeah, this is huge. Look, I'm going with my same process from a couple weeks ago. Eric Cole, Chris Kirk, they're my favorites to win. Both have played well here the last couple of years.
Chris Kirk is your defending champion, correct?
Yes. But in terms of strokes gained, they are both in the top 10 the last 2 years in the field in this event. So I think they're both poised to play well. I would lean towards Eric Cole if I absolutely have to pick between the two of them. So my actual pick
for his first win
would be something. Let's jump over to LIV Jeddah at Royal Greens Golf and Country Club in Saudi Arabia. That's happening. Obviously, Anthony Kim is playing. He's the wild card, like we talked about. Winner prediction. What do we have?
I'm going to pick Jon Rahm until he wins. Finally, he's been around every single week, and he's the best player on the LIV Tour. And I think it's just a matter of time before he gets his first victory over on LIV.
I'm going with DJ because I just think that would really shake things up. I think it would really be an interesting conversation to have heading into major season with DJ having 2 wins approaching the Masters. I think would be significant.
Yes, definitely. Especially with how much we've talked about DJ. Wouldn't it be cool if Phil won one of these? We see him at the bottom and towards the bottom of the leaderboards a lot. I was just thinking about that randomly. I would say cool would be Phil if won. Maybe if like a guy like Ian Poulter won, it'd be kind of cool too. But I don't think that'll happen.
Yeah, I would say they have about equal odds to win as Anthony Kim does. I will say, like, this is
Anthony
one thing
Kim's got better odds, I would think.
Yeah, this is one thing that can't really be argued. I think at this point is like LIV's strength of field is improving and has improved consistently over the last 2.5 years. So look, I think it's harder for those guys to win now because there are some legitimately good golfers in the field every week.
There sure is, yeah. And especially when you can get a guy like Jon Rahm to come join your tour, that really helps the whole strength of golfers in your field.
Yeah. Well, hey, that is going to do it for this edition of the show. You can catch more over at our Substack. Subscribe to the show on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and follow us on TikTok if you want to see more from us in between episodes. For Nate Sharman, I'm Josh Durso, and remember, whether it's down the middle or out of bounds, keep on swinging.
You've been listening to Out of Bounds. If it's coverage, debate, or discussion of pro and local golf, we'll be talking about it. Be sure to visit the website. Find us on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. See you next time on Out of Bounds.